Hey, what's up, everyday people? Welcome back to another episode. I'm Chad Bruckner. It's a real pleasure for you to be with us today. On this episode, we're going to have a sit down convo with Jamie Gwynn. Jamie is a municipal manager in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. That's the same county I was a police officer, but that's coincidental because I heard of Jamie's name not from when I was a police officer, but from my current role now owning a private investigation firm. And I heard about Jamie as a 35-year-old municipal manager who got hired in his 20s. And a municipal manager is the chief executive officer of a township or a borough. So they are at the forefront of this municipality running the day-to-day operations. And it's a pretty extraordinary job for a guy in his 20s to get hired and now to be in his mid-30s and be a go-to leader in that industry. And that's what Jamie is. Jamie's progressive. He's not afraid to try things and fail and roll up his sleeves and compete with others. But he's also a very God-fearing man, very cares deeply about the community and helping people. So just a fascinating guy. He's an ordinary guy doing extraordinary things. By the way, my wife was just talking to me about this. She goes, everyday people. You sure you want this name? And I said, Kristen, this is exactly what I want. I don't want celebrity status, famous people. I want ordinary folk like us to be celebrated, to be lifted up. And that's what we're going to do. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Jamie Gwynn. I think he's a fascinating guy. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about family. We're going to talk about Jesus. We're going to talk about people. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. So stay tuned. Really enjoy the episode. And thank you for being here with us. This is Everyday People. Jamie Gwynn, what is up, brother? How are you?
Living the dream every day above ground.
I feel like living the dream is a standard answer in government. Living the dream. Same as, how you doing? I'm good, even though you could not be good.
I mean, look, I'm actually living the dream. Sometimes I'm probably working on the dream, but today I'm living the dream.
Living the dream. So, Jamie, how old are you?
35.
How long you been in local government?
Woo, man, I've done a lot of different internships. And then straight, I would say I'm probably at the 10-year mark collectively at this point.
Was that a career track for you? Was that a goal or was something you fell into?
Career track, where I came from, growing up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, my dream was to run for mayor and clean up corruption, clean up things. But I just felt like I didn't have enough understanding of the field when I kind of got into it. So being in a local government was always a dream of mine. I don't know, just service minded, trying to help people. And I found a niche being in local government in the appointed avenue instead of being elected, and love it more. I don't have to shake any babies or kiss any women on the way.
Yeah, that's a good thing. How many people do you currently supervise or lead in your municipality?
30. So we have 12 police. So that's run through our police chief. In our township, we don't have a mayor here. So I oversee that. And then 18 non-uniform staff. So we have a sewer authority here, and then we have public works and then administrative staff. So 30. When I got here, we were 36. Now we're down to 30. One more.
What is the greatest challenge you have faced from a human perspective, dealing with other human beings in your current role? What, if you could share without the details, maybe,
yeah.
What is the current challenge? Still to this day, you look back, you're like, man, I can't believe I had to deal with that.
Well, I think overall, the biggest challenge for me in life is personnel, people, because everybody's different. And I'm obviously only one person. I have certain styles and I'm adaptable in a lot of ways, but there's always going to be people that it's easier for me to work with. And there's always going to be people that I have to challenge myself to adapt. And then there's always people that maybe not want to adapt, maybe think of different things. And there's just going to be natural tension in those situations. And there's just too many variables within it. And every person's different. And then every day, right? Not everybody's living a dream every day. And people have their own variables in life and their families and situations. So overall, I would think personnel is the hardest challenge. It's probably going to be the hardest challenge for the rest of my career and rest of life. Just dealing with people. I feel like it's a kind of microcosm of what we deal with in the world. If you see what's going on in the world in general,
yeah,
getting along with others.
Yeah, you have a story to tell about impacting somebody's life in a positive way that maybe to this day is something that is a driving force in your life, or a human connection that really has transcended you.
Every time someone asks me that question, that probably has made me a better human being, that has made me a better human being, and has probably set the tone for me being a municipal manager long term. When I was in grad school, so undergrad, I was at Wilkes University, and then I did a program called Teach for America in Baltimore for 2 years. That's its own story in terms of like shaping my life and who I am. I came back, I went to grad school at the University of Pennsylvania, got my master's in public administration, and in my it's a 2 year program. And in that second year, that was probably that 2 years was probably, I call it the limbo state of my life, is where you don't really know, like you kind of know where you want to go, but you don't really know how to get there. You don't know the breadcrumbs of success. And that was a time period where I'm like, 24, 26, in that limbo state. And I'm like, well, my goal is to be mayor of Wilkes-Barre. And like, for me, I think there was a lot of selfishness to that mindset where I'm like, the adoration mattered. But I also always want to help people, but I was always like, I want to help people, but I also want to be known for helping people, like a very selfish mindset. And like, I'm big in my faith, and I'm big in believing God, opens up doors when he's ready for you to open them up, if you're open to that. So I feel like in that time period, he kind of shut a lot of things to go, look, you need to look at yourself first, and why you're really doing this. And with Wilkes-Barre, and Wilkes-Barre is just near and dear to my heart because where you grow up, where you come from. Of course, you wanna make that better, and that was the driving force. But that limbo status that I had was probably better for me than any time period since then to date, because that self-reflection taught me about my selfishness and kind of why I really wanted it. So what I endured though is I didn't know how to get to where I want to go. And in my second year of grad school, I started to panic a little bit. I like to be organized. I like to know things in advance. So not knowing how my world would be, was concerning for me. It's frustrating, sad. So I would say I have a lot of luck, a lot of intervention from God in these moments. But I think I did an internship with a company called Public Financial Management down in Philadelphia, and a lot of the school that I was in was the Fels School of Government, Institute of Government at Penn, and they'd have a lot of interns from us doing finance. So learned a lot about finance, met a lot of good people. I applied for a role there. They had some openings, and I didn't get it, and I had no other plans. And what's funny? A little sidetrack for a second. I had done 2 internships between my first and my second year at Fels that I thought would set me up for that role of going back to Wilkes-Barre. I did an internship with the city of Scranton under a guy named Chris Doherty, who's great mayor of Scranton. But it was right during the time where they had so many financial problems that they literally couldn't afford to pay their employees for 2 pay cycles. And I remember thinking, I never thought that was possible with government, that you just didn't have money, you couldn't pay your employees. So imagine I'm sitting there as like a 25-year-old between the mayor's office and employees that had to work without a paycheck. And I'm like, I'm not paid either. So simultaneously doing that, I was interning with Luzerne County when they were changing their form of government from a 3 commissioner to a council manager form of government, which I just thought was so cool because they never had a county manager. And that taught me a lot about the field of being a municipal manager in general, and kind of how a county works. So I got to have different experiences at the same time. And I thought they would kind of pan out. So I remember not getting that job at PFM. And there was an opening with Luzerne County. And now I'm like, great, I can go be a budget analyst at Luzerne County. And I literally just helped them for free 8 months earlier. And the job was paying like $30,000. If you think about it, like $30,000, like my education at Fels is $30,000 a year. Like it probably would take me 100 years to pay off my debt. But I was like, in my mind, I was like, I want to go get like my feet steady and go do that. I kid you not, I didn't even get a call back on that job. And when I called, like when I got like a touch with the county, like, well, you're not qualified for this position. I'm like, how am I not qualified for a budget analyst position? I have an MPA and I just helped you with your finance. And it was just, I remember being so bureaucratic that that still sticks with me. I'm like, that
how did you take
was
that?
illogical.
Looking back on
I didn't take that as a personal hit because I didn't take it as a personal hit. I took it more as like it's dumb. That's a dumb mindset.
did you feel like they screwed up, that's their loss?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, look, I'm a big believer. Like, I don't root for people's failures in life. Even if I don't get along with people, I'm like, look, I don't want that bad juju in my life, right? I don't wish ill on anybody. So for them, yeah, like it was definitely their loss because I could have helped them with a lot of stuff more than that value that they were going to pay me for. But I remember more it's sticking with me that they were so bureaucratic that they were like, you didn't meet this 2-year qualification on something. They overlooked everything else and they didn't look at what I could bring to the table in totality. And that's a moment that has shaped a lot of what I do today as well. And it's funny because as I see county managers like blitz and where I'm at, it's like, you kind of you reap what you sow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that time period though, like that kind of made me vulnerable because I'm like, I have no path here. But I made such good relationships at PFM that there was a guy at PFM. He's like, hey, I have a connection with Northampton Township, which is in Bucks County. And would you like if I can get you an interview? And look, I gotta admit, that time period, I'm like, a township. Like in Wilkes-Barre, we got Wilkes-Barre City, and Wilkes-Barre City's top 25 in the state of Pennsylvania in terms of population. And I'm like, Northampton Township, like I'm used to like Wilkes-Barre Township, which is small. And I'm like, I'm gonna go be like somebody that nobody knows this place and stuff. I was totally wrong. It's totally wrong. When I started doing research, Northampton's also like I think they're 26. They're like the same size as Wilkes-Barre. So it's kind of like I felt God's pointing me like, look, it's similar, but you don't know everything that I want you to do yet. And I was like, sure, I'll go do this. I'll go do this interview. So I remember going down. I remember getting the interview. And then what's wild is PFM came back with the job offer. And I was like, oh, great. Like I have an offer now. But what stuck with me is that they didn't want me originally. And I was like, well, what now? Like I was a second best or something like that. They're like, we have, I think Hurricane Ida funds or whatever. Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina happened back there in 2005 or whatever year that happened. They had some hurricane. I'm getting these wrong. That they had a lot of funding for that, like wrecked New Jersey. And they're like, we need this. I'm like, I'm not really interested in the work, but it's something, right? I got to survive. And I said, can I have like 2 weeks to let you know? Because I gave my word on this interview and I want to go do the interview. And I remember PFM, like they made me wait a month before they said, like, no, right? And I was okay, like you take your time. But I remember them come back and being like, yeah, 2 weeks is fine. And then I think like the next day they're like, no, we need to know by the end of the week. And I remember that really putting me off because I was like, but wait, you made me wait a month with no notice. And then you said yes to 2 weeks. And then now it's the end of the week. Like, is this a company I really want to work for? Because they go back on their word or what have you. I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm just saying like that was my experience then.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, look, can I get at least till Monday because I had this interview at Northampton. So I go down to Northampton and I meet a guy, and this is kind of getting into the question that you're asking about changing my life. I meet a guy named Bob Pellegrino. And I will tell you, Bob is like, for me, on like your Mount Rushmore of municipal managers, it's him, and I can fill other people in, but he will always be there in the center. Sort of like that uncle I've always wanted, but just total complete OG, has been in government, God, I think like 40 plus years now, has so much experience, jack of all trades, well liked, literally can't find a human being that doesn't like this person. And he's still manager of Northampton. And I remember meeting with him and he kind of showed me the office and he showed me like, the open office and like, look, we know job interviews, right? You go in, you wear a suit, you sit in front of people at a table, they ask you questions, and they say, we'll get back to you. That was not this interview. This was Bob getting to know me. And I was like, what is it? Like, to me, I'm like, this seems a little unprofessional. But he showed me the office, and then he's like, are you hungry? I'm like, sure. And he's like, well, this is this Italian place down the street. So we're eating like, and the place is called Terramina's. If people are listening to it, great. So we're eating food, and we're just talking about life and about what we can do. And I remember like at the end of it, he goes, so do you want to work with us? And I'm like, what? I'm sorry, what? And he's like, oh, I already knew I want to hire you, based on what like your contact told me. I just want to get to know you, see if you fit. And I was like, well, yeah. And I didn't even ask any other questions. He's like, well, I'm going to pay you $57,000. And I'm like, what was really odd is I'm like, PFM offered me 56,000, but it was like 50, but they'll give me a bonus up front of 6, and then I got to earn it. And I was just like, it's almost like, how did he know? And then later he tells me, well, the contact told me that they were going to pay you that, so I gave you $1,000 more. But he's like, look, do you want to work with us? Like, and I was like, yeah. And I remember that moment so vividly because I was like, I've never seen that before. I didn't know it was possible that you could just hire someone without getting it voted on, or I mean, I guess I didn't know a lot, right? And I just remember his warmth and his kindness, and I'm like, that's someone I would work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I didn't matter the money. I was in because of how he is. And I'm like, if that's how he is as a leader, I want to help that community because I'm going to learn. And the second part of that is I realized how much I didn't know at the same time because of how stoic Bob was then and is. And I was like, that's the type of guy that should go be mayor of Wilkes-Barre because that's the type of guy that would fix it. And I realized my deficiencies, even though I couldn't define them, I just realized that I had a lot to learn. So it kind of opened up probably why God put me in limbo for a little bit to be like, look, you're not ready. You're not ready. And I think I had peace with that because I was like, let me go learn from someone who seems like they know what they're doing. And like, look, and I've been now 9 years and he's still at the center of my universe of managers, someone that a lot of my colleagues go to calm storms and to learn. I mean, look, our budget style at my township is modeled after what he created decades ago. And we call it the Pellegrino method, that a lot of municipalities have successful budgets because of what he did on Linux back in the 80s or what have you. So
Wow.
That has molded me. Like that county story I told you and Bob's initial story, and there's like hundreds of other stories. They've kind of morphed me from like being that person who was just selfish to be like the adoration to be like, look, I'm service minded, but at the same time, like humble enough to know that I don't know everything. And I don't know everything today either. But it just made me more passionate to be better in my craft, and kind of just cemented what I wanted to do in my life. Although I'm always open to doing more and different things to try and help whatever God puts me to, but I just remember those are really crowning combination moments in that limbo status. And I was completely vulnerable, and I had somebody take a chance on me when they had no idea if I was qualified. And now compare that to my Luzerne County story, where they're like, you're not qualified, right? Somebody else, I don't even think he saw my resume. And he's like, look, you're in it. And like that moment, think about it. If he didn't meet with me that day, I might not be where I'm at right now. That changed my entire universe moving ahead. So that's my story on changing my life.
No, that's awesome. You brought up likability, and that is something that is so overlooked when we select people for our teams in any industry. I mean, I was talking to a recruiter today about this. We don't use likability. If somebody's not likable, which by the way, I took a seminar last year, and the media professor for LSU, he was Shaquille O'Neal, Drew Brees' media coach, amazing guy. And Dr. Karam studying found that likability is the number one trait that people want to work with you. Yet we don't hire for that. We don't look for that. We don't screen for that. We don't talk about that. To me, it's like, let's not look at somebody's resume. Let's look at the fit and the soft skills they have and how they're going to fit in here. We just don't, especially local government, we are just doing it the opposite in a lot of ways still. And I want to ask you about your kids. How many kids you have?
One.
One.
One so far.
One so far. You think you might have more?
Four. I'll do as many as God wants me to have, and my wife allows.
I love it. What's your wife's name?
Erica.
And she has a podcast, right?
She does.
What's that centered on?
Thrive. Oh man, she kind of does a lot what you do in interviewing. I wouldn't put myself in the interesting category, but she will interview a lot of interesting people on different topics that try and help people's lives. So
that's cool.
And like, look, I'm guilty. I don't listen to it more than I should probably listen to every single one of them. But I mean, like she had one recently where it's a person who teaches you how to be a better parent to your kids. Like it's just very practical, mental health, making your life better. It's called the Thrive Podcast. So she has a cool opening and stuff. The Thrive Podcast.
We'll save that.
So yeah, her blog. She's an influencer. So her business is called Coming Up Roses. She has a blog, social media, but I mean, she has a book out called Caffeinate Your Soul, and has a podcast. My wife is so much more interesting than me, Chad, that I almost wish she was on this podcast instead.
Aren't they all though? I feel like we're lucky to have some of these partners in life. The genesis for this show for me was, this is something I've been working on for a while and thinking about, was, we are all much more similar than we like to give ourselves credit for. Whether it's egos or competition, but generally we all put our pants on one leg at a time, and we're all dealing with some sort of struggle or conflict in our life, and that might be different than anybody else's. But then I realized, because of that, we're so similar, more than we want to let on. The ability to connect with each other and help each other, support each other, it's so much more easier to do if we can boil down the differences. How do you boil those down? And when you're interviewing somebody or you're just working with somebody, how do you try to influence them to say, look, we're going to be working together or serving together. Let's figure out the best way to influence you to do what we want you to do. Like, how does that process look for you?
When we hire here at New Hanover, I'm a part of every single process, because in my mind, I want everybody to be part of this family. And look, there's a lot of talking like it's a job, and how can you have a job be a family? I get it. But like you said, likability is the number one thing. I'm a big believer that if people know that you're taking care of them, they will take care of you. And so that definition of family is, no, I'm not going to be at your house for Christmas, but like, you're spending a third of your life here every single day, or at least for us, 4 days a week. I want you to know that you're going to be okay, that you have good health benefits, that you make fair wages, and that you also take care of us, that work that's fair work for what you're getting. So when we bring people on, I always have our department heads check for technical fit. So, I mean, there are some positions you got to have certain qualifications, but in general, it's when they come to me for that final interview, it's all me getting to know them, me getting to know their families. What are their ambitions in life? Are they growth mindset? Do they just want to do a job? And there's no wrong answer. It's me trying to keep them in mind long term, because if I hire someone as an administrative assistant in our codes department, I want to know, like, do they want to be a manager someday? Are they just holding this over because they want to be a good grandma or a grandpa, or then I can help them in different ways that I think benefits them as well. But I mean, it's always about fit. And like you said, I'm looking at soft skills. I'm looking at adaptability. So when I look at resumes, I'm like, you don't need to have experience in codes, for example. I need to know are you resourceful? Can you adapt? Are you able to deal with people? Are you able to have a professional conversation? And look, don't underestimate, that's a hard skill for some people to do. And sometimes it takes experience as well. I mean, you never know who you're going to deal with on a daily basis, but that's kind of how I've set up our culture here. And I think it's kind of been paying dividends over my 6 years so far, is trying to get people in here who are focused on, not Jamie's at 26 where I just want adoration. I want people who care about people and are here to help people and are willing to figure out a way that don't go, well, that's not my job description, right? I want people who are like, it doesn't matter what my job description is. if I can help you with something, I will. Those are the people that I think are gonna change minds and hearts on local government and government in general. They're gonna say, you know what, man, that's a different type of government. That's a government who actually cares for us. So, for example, is if somebody calls me and they say, hey, I don't know what extension I got. I'm not going to say, well, let me send you to my admin assistant. I'm taking the call. I don't care what my role is. I don't care how much I make. How can I help you today? Okay, you have a question about a county road. I'm not going to say, hey, here's the county number. Hang up the phone and call them. I'm going to say, what's your name? What's your address? What's your email address? Let me do an email. Let me copy you on that email. Let me see if I can use my influence to get you an answer quicker. That's stuff that I don't have to do, but it's stuff that at the end of the day, I think you should do. And I think that people really appreciate that, whether they say thank you or not. So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. I mean, you have people in local government right now across this country that are doing amazing things that work in local government, whether codes, administration side, public safety, doing absolutely amazing things. And we just don't hear about them enough. It's funny. You made me think of a story. So people that don't know, I worked in the same county as a police officer that you work in now. And I had a great career. I mean, I really enjoyed where I worked at. Towards the end, I just started going through some mental health challenges for sure. And things needed to be addressed. So it's funny. I remember having a conversation with somebody in my chain of command, probably my second to last day there. And he says to me, he said, Chad, we got so many calls about you. Almost every week, somebody was calling. You carry the groceries in, you pick the weeds out of it on a Saturday morning, you spend an hour with them picking the weeds out of the sidewalk, and things that I didn't tell anybody. I don't call out with that stuff. And he said, we got calls about you almost every week. And I remember looking at him like deadpan and saying, that would have been nice to know. You said this earlier about making people feel appreciated. I just think in local government, we are really doing a bad job at that. What are you doing at your municipality, or what things have you thought about that you could do better to honor your people, that they feel appreciated, they feel affirmed, they feel like they're part of something special?
I think one of my weaknesses, and I'll endure for the rest of my life. I am so laser focused all the time that I do tend to forget, like, pause and go talk with your people. Like, just be there, be around. Look, being a municipal manager is different every single day. I'm telling you, every single day, it's different. Most days when I plan something, I end up doing different things because there's different fires. And I don't take enough time to go see employees do their work and just be like, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. I have been getting better at that. So that is things I do. Like, if I notice something, I go, look, that's not what I'm used to people doing. I really appreciate it. I see that. Look, that goes a long way, I think, for a lot of people. At least in this organization, I think in my life, look, I mean, we're both married, right? Yeah. Isn't the same thing as like noticing what your spouse does? Hey, thank you for cleaning those dishes.
Absolutely.
Whatever you do there to make that successful, take it on. It's just, you kind of I fall in this trap of fatigue where, you start making excuses and you don't do those things. So that's something I can always be better on. But like, what do I do though that I think is a strength? Look, you'll probably ask me, but I'll jump to it. We just implemented a 4-day, 36-hour work week. Simplified. And that's one of the things in municipal manager that I pride myself on is simplicity. What I've learned about government is it feels like we try and make things so complicated, but no one has ever said that it had to be that complicated. I guess we title that bureaucracy. I'm like, kick that chair over. You don't need to do it. Who said that it had to be there, right? Hunters and gatherers didn't create processes just to make people wait longer. It's somebody at some point did that because they thought it made sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense. So we trialed, and then the board made permanent for now. They could change at any point, but we do Monday through Thursday. It works for us. 6:30 to 3:30 for our sewer employees and our public works employees, and then 8 to 5 for our other 94 employees, and they get every Friday off. And I will tell you that every week has changed people's lives in terms of just doing their grocery shopping in a store that's not filled with a lot of people, or getting their gardening done, or I don't know, spend a date day with their spouse. Look, sometimes I take Fridays and me and my wife, we go to the movies, and like that helps your mental health. then you come back refreshed. So I haven't found another municipality in the state of Pennsylvania that has done that. I mean, I get calls or emails at least once a week now on this 4-day concept, and I'll give everybody everything to do it, because I think the more people that do it, it's going to start to change hearts and minds in government.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and that's how I first heard of your name was, I think it was on LinkedIn. Somebody, maybe you posted or somebody posted, and I saw your conversation about it. And I was just intrigued. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought about, government. We're just told you got your 24/7, your emergency services. Now, obviously, police are going to be working 24/7, but I just think it was a fantastic concept. So,
what's crazy too is how many of my colleagues are like, it'll never work. It'll never work, this and that. And I'm like, all right, it's okay.
It's the fear. It's, you know what? It makes me, it kind of pisses me off, actually. It's the fear of not wanting to try something. It's the fear of failure. My God, like, if we only go after things that we're going to succeed at, or we know going in it we're going to have success in, that's cowardice. I mean, have a shot, be courageous, be bold, take a shot. And if you fail, you make the adjustment, you pivot, and you learn. And then for next time. It's just crazy. Like, we're in government too. I think we're so liability conscious that we just play everything safe.
Look, I don't come to work to move a pencil an inch. I come to do a job and make positive change. And then if they don't need me anymore, okay, I'll go somewhere else and I'll make positive change. Don't worry about that stuff. I make a lot of money to make this community work, and every community is different. But right now, like, if we're going to be trailblazers for the right reasons, so be it. But I also, learn from other people the same way.
I love it. I love it. All right, we're running out of time here, so I appreciate you being on. We want to do a little quick round of trivia. If you're down for this?
All right.
Yeah. Right. I have a long list here, so I'm going to try to extrapolate the ones that I think I want to hear from you. All right, your favorite vacation destination you've ever been on?
Cancun. Although I'd love to go to Rome more often, and I'll do that.
Have you been to Rome?
Cancun. Yes.
What's that like? I've never been. What's that like?
Oh my gosh. Like the pizza and the wine, the basilica, and just, like, especially like me and my Catholic roots, it's like just taking that in, love it. But then Cancun is just, just peace.
Yeah, peace. I love that.
Although I can't handle the sun with my milky Welsh skin.
You need a lot of suntan lotion there. Sunscreen. Worst line of advice you've ever received?
Ooh. Worst. Man, you caught me, because I'll have to think about that one. But I'll tell you this, it's maybe not a line, but like a thought, is when people say that government is slow for a reason. And I go, that makes literal no sense to me. It's if something doesn't work, so you got to take 6 months to make the change, it doesn't work.
It's such an excuse. Such an excuse.
Like, fix it. What? Look, when municipalities have like 25 committees, and I'm like, if you need the committee, you need the committee. But if you don't need the committee, you don't need the committee. So it's like, I don't need staff meetings just to make people have staff meetings. I need a staff meeting when I need a staff meeting. Like, change it.
Quick question. Why is that? Like, I noticed now that my company now, I'm servicing all these municipalities, and everybody does it so differently. Is it the need, and I don't know, but is it the need for everyone to say I'm a chair of something? Like, I've seen some that just have a crazy amount of committee.
Look, every municipality is going to be different. I think I'd be curious if you interview someone who's a borough manager. I think boroughs it's like there's not enough land, and there's too many people, and then it's like too many cooks in the kitchen. And look, every community is different. But you might have people that feel like there's more voices needed, and sometimes there is, and sometimes there's not, and there's no standard on it. But like, I'm a firm believer, if you need to do something, do it. If you don't, you don't. So like I said, staff meetings. I have colleagues that do staff meetings every week, every other week, once a month. I do a staff meeting if I need to call a staff meeting. I don't need to bother people's time unless I need to bother people's time.
I like that. All right, your first celebrity crush, and what age were you?
Oof. I can't remember that girl's name who's like always in the Hallmark movies with the brunette hair, but I'll go with Hayden Panettiere. I'll go with Hayden Panettiere, and I think we're around this. I think she might be a couple years younger, but I think Remember the Titans was a favorite movie of mine.
Great. I
remember being like younger, and I'm just like not that, but like actually, like as I was like, oh, she's a really good actress. And as she got into that TV show Heroes,
Yeah.
if you remember that as a superhero and stuff, I was like a celebrity crush.
Yeah.
And it's so much that I think my wife would battle her if she saw her in person.
Mine was Britney Spears. I just got to Korea in 1999. I was just turned 18. Literally was crying myself to sleep on my first night, sleeping in my room, barracks room alone. And there was, she just came out, released her first album, and she had that controversial cover shoot where she's like in this, and she's only 17 at the time. People were like, it's too young. But I cut it out, I ripped it, put it on my wall, and I ended up having all these posters on my wall of Britney Spears. All right, two more. Most impactful person in your life and why?
Who? Look, I'll say three. Like, look, but I already told you Bob Pellegrino. In terms of my work life, that guy could do no wrong in my mind. In terms of my everyday life, my wife's my rock. In terms of forever, it's gonna be God. So, those are like Bob's the type of person where no matter what I do, he's probably the voice of reason in any scenario and gets every benefit of the doubt. My wife could smack me, from here to the sun, and she's always right. And at the end of the day, it's like, I have a fear of God for the right reasons, and it's, I try to live that, even though I fail every day.
Yeah, great answers.
No, I didn't mean to. I know you want to box me in there, but
hey, there's no right or wrong answers. There's no right or wrong answers here. All right, last one. Saturday night. Assuming you have no plans, what are you doing? You and Erica and the little girl. What are you doing?
We'll probably do some dinner, and then there's in our community we have. Oh my God, he's so cool. There is a dad, and his son, I think, is on his second kidney transplant. You talk about people who inspire, and he works for Merck. And this guy creates a light show at his house that we work with him, where we have cones out and stuff, and they do every Thursday through Sunday from 5:30, I think, to 9:30. They have a local radio station, and they have a 20-minute light show that's gorgeous. And they collect cans, and he just is, him and his son and their friends, they're out there literally from last week to the end of the year, 4 hours, 4 days, volunteering our time to help the community and just bring Christmas spirit. So I didn't think I'd give him a shout on that stuff, but I'm like, people like that make me want to be a better human being, because I'm like, and they teach me how to be unselfish. And I'm just
what's
like,
his name?
wow.
What's his name? Because this is everyday people. This is about honoring those kind of people.
Oh my God, I'd love to his name's Adam Caganani. I was saying his son, I don't know how you go through liver transplants and how his family dealt with it. He's so interesting to me, because I'm like, and he actually goes to the same church that I do as well. And I'm just like, he has some different type of strength that I would just like to grab and pull into me. But he, they just do this selfless act every single year. I think they're in their 9th year or something like that. I'm just like, that's awesome.
Wow, that is. I'm gonna find him and honor him, because he speaks to this show, everyday people. So
we're gonna I'll send you his information. We're gonna go to that on Saturday. I'm so excited for it.
That's awesome. Well, Jamie Gwynn, brother, I appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for being on here today, and keep doing all the great things in New Hanover. I'm a fan. I'm keeping an eye and supporting you and rooting you on, and all the best to you, brother.
What an honor and privilege, man. It's all mine. I appreciate you.